All right, hello everybody. This is a restart of our developer call for May 28th, 2019. We started the call on Jitsi and had started out by describing the proposal number 93 at a high level. And so I don't know if it's worth doing that again, but we described the proposal and we're working on getting feedback and suggestions and comments from other people on the call. So would anybody like to share their thoughts on that proposal as it stands?
Just to understand it completely, from a user perspective, so if I'm a Bitcoin buyer, I'm installing the Bisq client for the first time, I have to create, let's say I want to trade Bitcoin with euros with SEPA. I create my SEPA account. Then I will have the trade limit of, so at the moment it would be 0.01 Bitcoin, right? And that will be forever, also if I don't do any of the additional verification steps. So I probably am prompt, or there's a hint when I create the account that you can extend your limit if you link another payment account and make a successful trade. So it's only that the aging only starts after the first successful trade. Is that right?
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. For a successful trade and with an additional verification step with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have the second account which is linked. So I do need two different bank accounts, two different SEPA bank accounts. Then I have to, if I create a buy offer, I probably have to. So at that point, I have to take I only can create a buy offer up to 0.01 Bitcoin, and I need to, or I probably want to have a kind of an old user, or a verified user, to take my offer. So my account gets kind of whitelisted. So I need to be able to have the option to limit the offer takers to people with a mature account, and they have to be able to still sign accounts, because as in your proposal, as far as I remember, one verified account can verify up to 3 other accounts. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I have to limit that, and as soon as one of these verified accounts take my offer of 0.01 Bitcoin, then I will be, during the trade process, I will be prompted to transfer half with the one account and half with the other payment account. And as soon as this the seller receives my SEPA transfers, then the Bitcoin is released immediately, because it's still just a small amount, and my account aging starts immediately. So did I understood it correctly so far?
I think so. I think the only thing I would add to that is that the seller in that case should wait, I would say, some amount of time, a couple of weeks. I think in the proposal we specified 3 weeks to make sure that no chargebacks occur before releasing the Bitcoin and finalizing the trade.
Okay, so we would extend this kind of trade period and hint the seller to wait as long as possible for his protection.
Yeah, I would say minimum that the seller waits 3 or 4 working days.
Yeah,
that would be the minimum reasonable to wait. If the seller and the buyer are willing to wait more, well, that would be best, but at least 4 working days, because most chargebacks will occur on that time window. Of course, they might happen later, but I think that most chargebacks would occur on that time window.
And as far as I remember, there was this the suggestion that we move the fee, the taker fee. So if the seller is the taker fee to the buyer. That the only although I don't think with the current trade protocol, I think this is not possible right now. So that would be quite difficult. So I don't think we can do that. At least
I'm not. I don't hear.
Maybe I will. So there was also the suggestion that we get rid of the taker fee if the taker is the seller, and the user that verifies the fresh payment account, and move this fee to the buyer side. Or did I read this wrong? I'm not sure. I just quickly scanned the document. I don't hear anything. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think, let me see. I forget exactly the details of that aspect.
So if that's the case, unfortunately, we can't do it with the current trade protocol. So I just want to point that out. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can hear me. Steve, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. The only problem I see, or what I'm not sure about, if it should be kind of an optional feature or if we should force everyone to go through this process. So if it's just kind of an additional protection feature, so people see attention, you are trading with a unverified account, and if any chargeback happens, it's on you. So maybe we can kind of have a I'm not sure. So I got a lot of audio feedback loops at the moment.
Emilio.
Hello.
Emilio. Hello. Could you put mute?
I just muted Emilio. Sorry, Emilio, I muted you. Yeah.
Okay.
Just wanted to say, I think I'm not sure if it should be optional or required, if it's a feature that everyone is forced to use, and if there's no trade possible, if you don't have verified your account at all, or if it's up to the seller to take the risk, so that the seller sees, the account age is 0. You can trade with this party or this peer, also higher than 0.01 Bitcoin, but in case of a chargeback, you're not refunded at all. So it's because the risk is on you. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to really think a lot about the proposal. I only had time before the call to read through it. So there might be some other points that come up sooner or later.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be nice to make it optional. The only thing I'm not sure about is how, like practically how that could be done, because account age, I think, would have to be uniform for it to be meaningful, at least uniformly derived. Like if, for example, if some people would rather not participate in this, I guess then the question is, how would their account age be determined? We'd have to figure out a way to make that number meaningful, or
Okay, there is I think that there is an alternative. There is one thing that we cannot verify, is that if an old user verifies two accounts or not. Maybe the trade is set up with 2 accounts, but what really is happening is that the buyer is just using 1 account and the seller is confirming. We will never know that, because Bisq can never know what happens on the fiat side. So since that is not something that we can have for sure, but what we might more or less assume is that at least the trusted user or the old user, he is going to truthfully confirm a fiat payment. What we could do is make optional the 2-factor authentication, but still not triggering account age until an old user confirms the payment from a new user. In that case, the account age parameter would be much stronger than it is now. It would be stronger with 2-factor authentication, but that would be somewhere in the middle. And maybe for users that care a lot about privacy, or market makers or very active traders, they are going to take the option of only verifying users if those users are willing to pay from 2 accounts or whatever other 2-factor authentication is proposed. That's the other part of the proposal, where we suggest to open the chat for the buyer and the seller to agree on how they want to verify each other.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Look, Christoph, how much work would you say it is to implement the peer-to-peer chat? Because Manfred was saying it's not too much work, but I mean, practically, what's your estimation?
Regarding the chat, the problem is I haven't touched the messaging part myself so far. I just seen some UI parts. So for a realistic estimation, I would need to look into the code in more detail. So I do know that that the messaging everything is prepared, and there's the possibility to send messages at least to the arbitrator. But I just have to look first at the code. Otherwise, I think Manfred, I'm not sure if Manfred wrote it in some of the proposals. If from his side it would take 2 weeks, roughly. I'm not sure if I have that correctly in my mind. If if Manfred, it would take Manfred 2 weeks. If he works full time, then it would take at least 1 month for everyone else, I guess, full time to make this happen. So, but to make a realistic estimation, I think I have to look at the code first.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's just guesstimating,
right.
Which is. But it should be doable. But what I think is, whatever we want to do, we have to think about, okay, what's the minimal version that still makes sense, that we can ship and start doing that and iterating step by step. So maybe also other developers can pick it up as well, and we're not getting too much workload, because unfortunately I wasn't at any of the other calls regarding the workload to say what's my availability at the moment. The problem is with the timing, as it wasn't planned this way, that Manfred fades out that quickly. I'm on paternity leave until end of August, and until that time, I would say I have, if it works out very well, I might be able to work 20 hours per week, but that's kind of a best case scenario. Just to put in perspective the amount of workload I'm able to handle at the moment, unfortunately.
Okay, yeah, that's helpful. Just I guess helpful for us to get an idea of what resources we have to work with.
So in general, I think what we have to do to make this process as lean and fast as possible is to work on the concept until it really works. Just thinking and talking about it. When we have this technical specification, maybe someone, maybe Pedro or Rodrigo or someone else could come up with a UI prototype, a click prototype with the actual user workflow, how it would work from the user's perspective. And if we're happy with that, then we start developing. So we're not losing any development resources, doing some iterations during development, which is normally quite time consuming. So
yeah,
I think it's already a great start. How you guys started with the proposals, which are in very detail, and you split up. And it looks like the second payment verification is the best way to tackle first, and I do agree with that. Just to give 100% good feedback, I'm really sorry that I wasn't able to give feedback over the last weeks, and I might need some time to think it through, also from user perspective, to give better feedback on that. So sorry that I don't have a kind of a perfect final feedback at the moment.
No problem. I mean, it's not easy to understand these proposals, and I think you already show that you understand it fairly well, at least well enough to have a bit of a conversation about it. So don't apologize. But yeah, I think you're right that we should develop a clear idea of how this thing should be implemented from the user perspective, the UX and that kind of thing.
Regarding the blacklist, if you want to do this in a decentralized way, it might be quite complicated, I guess. At the moment, I'm not sure. Yeah, sure. I guess you guys are aware of that we have the possibility to filter by account details or onion addresses, so we can ban users completely. But in the current approach, we need an additional blacklist. So people are only flagged and not really banned from complete trading. Is that right?
Well,
so if your verifier is banned, then all his verified payment accounts are blacklisted and has to be reconfirmed again. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right, I think.
They would be they would be like flagged, like the trading limits would go to the minimum, and when they verify again, then they are back to normal. But I don't know if that's too harsh. Maybe only the scammer should get blacklisted, and what we call the causing accounts, maybe we should leave them. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I don't know if it's too harsh, because Steve and I were a little bit. Sorry, we're a little bit frightened that if a scammer gets to be a triggering user, he could, verify other fake accounts, and that's the reason that all verified accounts from the same triggering user would get flagged. But I'm not really sure if that's too harsh or not. I think that they should be flagged, but that maybe the reason of this call is just to get feedback on that.
Yeah. One question, not directly related, but if we would increase the deposit, the buyer deposit, up to 100%, and people who are not verified at the moment or have an account age that it's younger than 1st of March can trade higher, but would need to put down the full trade amount as a deposit and an additional amount, so they have something to lose. Do you think people would still trade, or is it unrealistic if you would?
Well, for me, I think that would be, if you combine that with a little bit more delay, like the sellers waiting a few days, well, that would be, I think that the scammers would think twice before using a scam, because they would lose their BTC. But that has its drawbacks for honest users that now have to put 100% of deposit. So
it's the big problem is that we
indeed. I was discussing with Steve internally that if this proposal goes through and the chat is enabled and the two-factor authentication is implemented, then it could be even almost the opposite, to have buyers without any security deposit at all for very small quantities. But if the seller truthfully verifies the buyer, with all these new implementations and all these new protection mechanisms, then we could go even in the other direction, to open more the user experience for people that don't have any BTC at all. So,
it makes sense.
I guess one of the go ahead.
Implementing the two-factor authentication, even if it is only optional, and implementing the possibility of chat or pre-trade for the roadmap of Bisq on the long term, it would be good, because it could even allow things like this, now the sellers are able to be more confident with the buyers, so we could even open the possibility of onboarding more easily new users, because now we have the tools to verify them.
Absolutely. Can we maybe do it that way? Just from my perspective, I will go through also the code parts that would be touched by this feature. So I have a better idea on the workload and the amount of work that needs to be done to make this happen, and then I might be in a better position to say in more detail what we can do easily and what might need more work. Maybe the chat is really easy to do.
Okay, there is one other thing about the chat, is that I think that, I'm not sure, but I think that we all agree that we have a problem on relying on arbitrators, because that's a centralization. Also, even within this proposal, the blacklisting would be attached for the arbitrators, but you have the chat. Maybe the role of the arbitrators could be would be a step on on not needing the arbitrators, and for the decentralized blacklisting, Steve and I have a couple of ideas that maybe they could work, but we didn't want to include them in this proposal because for now we have the arbitrators and this is complex enough to take a decision. So we preferred first to propose these methods because I think that the part of decentralizing the blacklisting process is completely separate from the two-factor authentication and the chat system.
Yeah, that's true.
But we are optimistic that the decentralized blacklisting is possible also.
Yeah.
Just for the record, SQ made a comment in the YouTube chat that he actually started on the chat feature, but he said that it might be a little more work than he thought, but probably not too much. So I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I guess he might be a good person to talk to when you do look into the code for that. Yeah, he seems to have some experience on that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, definitely we talk with SQ on that. Yeah.
So I guess it sounds like we might want to just stick to the simplest possible measures to start. I mean, I guess if we could do two-factor, that would be great. But like Manuel was saying before, I mean, I think just having an older user confirm a payment and using that as a starting point for account aging could be quite valuable on its own too. So maybe that's, if the other mechanisms turn out to be too much or more involved than we thought, then that could hopefully maybe be a simpler starting point, just as a stopgap in the short term.
Yeah. But with an older user, so if we would start with that, that an older user is able to kind of verifying a new account. So that would be then a separate user interface, or we would still kind of, because the older user also has to wait for long enough so that he's sure that no chargeback will take place before he's kind of confirming. So if we do it in the trade process itself, then we would need to delay the payout as it was already in the one of the first ideas that were Manfred started to implement, I guess, as far as I remember.
Yeah, is it feasible to increase the payment window, the trade period, for certain trades only, or is that? Or I don't know. Is that practical?
At the moment, it's done on payment methods, on certain payment methods. So for certain payment of other trades, certain trades, it is not done yet, but yeah, should be possible. Yeah, I will have a look. Unfortunately, I haven't touched the deeper parts of these codes, not as often as Manfred did. So for most of the stuff, I just have to do some code reading together. Sorry about the noise. I have to get a better idea on the exact implementation.
Sure.
I think that maybe for that there would be two different approaches. One would be just to do the same thing that is done now, but instead of 6 days, it would be, I don't know, 15 or 21 days for trades that involve a zero account user. I don't know how difficult or easy is that to implement. And the other approach, I think, the approach that you were talking about is to have a time lock on the BTC, like they are released, but they are not. It's not possible to use them or something like that. It's something that Manfred proposed in the delay proposal. He said that it could be, instead of delaying the payment, it could be done with a time lock, which I think
regarding
it was done
Regarding the time block on the Bitcoin on the transaction level, I think Manfred also told me, also in one of our calls, or recent calls, that this might also be more difficult than we thought, as it's not mined or by the miner immediately, so it might be this kind of time lock transaction. So it might be then there might be the need to republish it again when it's time to release. So yeah, we have to have a look if it's possible to publish it in a way that it's getting added to the block already, so we don't have this issue that we had with the payout delay before, that the seller has to be online and then release and send the transaction at the later point. But I'll have a look on details.
Okay, and the other option of just that the trace when a new user is involved, that instead of 6 days is like 15 or 20 days, and then the seller, is it at the discretion of the seller to wait a little bit before confirming the payment? That would be more complicated, or
I think this would be easier for sure to implement. Okay. I think this kind of stuff that we can just, so it's more kind of a user interface, that so we make the user aware, and we can even block the user from releasing it immediately, so that he really waits to be sure, or we advise the user the trader to wait until this time is,
but blocking the user, that was what Manfred was working on, and he said it was more complicated, more complex than he thought initially.
That's true from the UI. I do remember. Yeah. It was more complicated.
So that's why maybe if it is too complicated or too complex, that's why I was just suggesting just to amplify, and then you inform the seller how he should proceed, and wait as much as possible for confirming the payment. It would be, well, not such a good measure, but maybe something in the middle. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that could work. I have to see if we can make this also work from the UI on both sides, but there should be. Maybe that's a way. So people can still, so if I understood correctly, so the seller can still release the Bitcoin immediately if he wants to, but we advise him to delay the releasing of the Bitcoin as long as possible, until he has the feeling, or is sure enough that there will be no chargeback involved.
Yeah.
And that the arbitrate, and if this would go into arbitration, that it's kind of in consensus with the trade protocol.
Yeah, because we have the advantage there that we are dealing with an experienced user in Bisq, because the seller in this case is going to be an old user, so he's an experienced user, and if he gets a message, please note that you are confirming the payment of a new user. Please make sure that you have waited several days, that there are no chargebacks and all that. I think that those users, because the fact that they are all users, they are going to be more
cautious.
They're going to be cautious. They're going to understand much more easily than new users. So I don't know if it is to trust too much on
the seller,
user, but I think that it would be reasonable to make that trust, and if we warn them that please note that this is a new user, don't confirm too quickly.
Yeah, the advantage of that would be that it's better, it's easier for new users than having the need of this two-factor authentication, where they have to have another account, another bank account,
Well, the good thing of enabling the chat is that if the buyer and the seller have a brief chat before the trade, and the buyer agrees to do that with two accounts, so you have both options that the buyer can go okay and do the trade like always with just one account.
Yeah.
But if they agree to verify each other, they will go always. They will go ahead with the trade because they agreed. So
if we would enable the chat immediately from the beginning, do you think we have some social engineering scam problem then on the long run, or is this something that
I think we definitely will have that risk, but yeah, I think so. That there is a risk on social engineering, but we have to make a decision on that.
Yeah,
there was somebody who suggested that we just have pre-populated responses. I don't know how practical that is in reality, but it seemed like an interesting idea.
I think that's a very good idea, but that is going to take longer to implement. So we have to make a decision. We want to enable the chat and take the risk of social engineering, or taking more time and develop a closed.
Yeah, the good thing is, if you use our chat, yeah, of course we have all the messages signed, and we can have a look at it later, so it's provable, the communication. And yeah, if someone tries to scam people, yeah, we can block them afterwards. If if we see that we're getting more and more issues on that regards, that we change this. We can what might also make sense if we implement the chat, that we make it also disable by a filter, just in case that we get severe issues, that we can just block stop the chat through a centralized filter message, just in case that we have these issues, and then we have to implement some pre-defined messages and make a new release. But yeah,
there is another approach in between of a closed list of messages and the chat, which is the seller sets his offer to, so the buyer has to choose some two-factor authentication method from a list. Just two accounts or other verification. For example, if we only have one implemented or two implemented, to put it, and then the buyer has to honor what he selected in the list, or otherwise the seller would open a dispute.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if that would be complex from the development point of view.
Yeah, from development, it's just amount of effort, and yeah. But I think maybe if we do this kind of this signing part of all the accounts with the information, that this kind of this hint for the sellers at the moment, that they should wait to release the Bitcoin for a certain amount of time, and if we also add the chat at the same time, if it's not, I have to talk with SQ how much work that would be. If we kind of deploy these two features at the same time, we might be able to be able to release the restrictions again.
Okay. Well, one thing about making this optional, that the buyer could verify himself with just a payment account, but should it be also optional for the seller? I mean, imagine that I am a very active trader or a market maker, and I have a lot of trades with a lot of users. maybe I don't want a new buyer to see my bank payment details if he doesn't commit to two-factor authentication. Maybe I'm okay and anyone can take my offer, or maybe I don't want a new buyer and a zero account payment account to take my offer if he is not willing to factor authenticate with me.
Okay, yeah, so that it's already in the offer details, and it would be a break of the trade protocol, and he will lose his deposit if it doesn't comply with the two-factor authentication later on. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but if he does, but for that, there would be some interface, some new development where the buyer confirms that he's willing to make two-factor authentication, which is not implemented at this moment.
Yeah. The problem is, regarding how the trade process works. I'm just thinking, yeah, of course, we could hide it in the UI, but I have to see if we can also, if that also works properly on a protocol level. So if someone,
so what I mean here is that, okay, I'm a new buyer, okay, I'm a new account, and then I click on a seller offer, that is an old account, and I would get up if the seller has configured his account to ask this before, because he's not willing to take any new users if the user doesn't commit to a two-factor verification. Then a pop-up would.
You mean already before the trade process starts at all?
Before.
So it's kind of okay.
Yeah. And the pop-up would say, this seller requires that due to factor authentication. Do you want to do it or not?
Yeah.
Yes, no. And if no, well, nothing happens. If yes, then you would go to the normal trade, and somehow this answer is stored in the contract.
Yeah, that should be. I think that should be possible. Adding a new field.
Because I think that we should make it optional for both, for the buyer and the seller. Because I think that it's important that very active traders are protected, and if they want to be protected from new users, because when a very active trader is scammed with a scammer, it makes a lot of harm on all the Bisq liquidity network. Because if the scammer, let's say, is from bank number 26, okay, and he scams a market maker which is in another bank, then all other traders in number 26 are probably going to be banned because of that single trade. Because that market maker probably has traded a lot with other clients from number 26.
Yeah.
So it is a central point that other banks are going to target very easily. And I think that it is indeed what happened with number 26, that it closed on a lot of Bisq accounts, a lot of Bisq user accounts in the last month. They just closed a lot of accounts because they can easily find the users that have a lot of in common with the clients.
Okay, yeah.
So I think it's good that sellers have the tools to protect themselves. I only want to trade with people that I trust, that are committed to make two-factor authentication or whatever protection tool we implement.
Yeah, but but if we kind of prompt the user with this two-factor authentication, then this would be we might have to be very specific so people are aware what kind of two-factor authentication they have to comply with. So it would be the pop-up for they have to provide at the moment two-factor authentication by the second bank account.
Yeah, well, of course, that pop-up could only talk about the available two-factor authentication methods that we have. So if we only have the secondary bank account, then the pop-up will say the seller requires that you have a secondary bank account and make the payment from 2 bank accounts. Yeah. And then in the moment we have more protection mechanism, the list would increase, and then maybe the buyer would select which option he wants to.
Yeah.
But only if it is you guys, the developers, are the ones that know that if it is difficult to implement or not. If this pop-up message before doing the trade is very difficult, it's going to be very time, or it's not worth it, then at least the seller could have an option to not to take offers from very young accounts, not to accept something like that.
I will think about all these ideas, and I will have a look at the code and then give feedback on the proposal in more detail.
Cool.
Very good. Very good.
Well, it's good to hear that. It seems like for the most part, they're not impossible. I guess the question is how much work it'll take and what's most practical to implement as soon as possible, and what might take more time. Yeah,
it's just a question of kind of timeline and available resources. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Anything else we want to cover?
From my side, not in particular. Just one thing, Steve. As I do plan to make a new release within the next, let's say, 1 to 2-3 weeks. There was some discussions regarding payment methods that are where there's little chargeback risk. That I think it was mentioned, like gift cards and so on. Maybe we could also try to get new payment methods added for the upcoming release, if there are, because adding new payment methods is not such a big deal. It's the big effort is just to find the ones that make sense and don't have any big risk. So that could be also interesting, so that we add new payment methods where we don't need to have this limit that is right now available. Just an idea.
Yeah, no, that is a good idea. Let me look into that a little bit. I guess it's good to know 2 to 3 weeks. So like you're targeting maybe middle of June, roughly.
Yeah, something. Yeah, mid of June. Yeah.
Okay.
Like that.
All right, I'll keep that in mind, and maybe I'll look into some of the payment methods and see if we can add some.
Yeah, and also that there could be some nice starting point for new developers, as it's not such a big deal to implement.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. So if we are going to write tag specs for this proposal, well, I guess that we should maybe have a day to make a decision of what is going to be what is on the higher level, how optional is going to be, and what is going to be implemented and what not, the chat and all that, and in light of that, then write the tech specs, because at the moment, for some people, I will have to write the tech specs. I don't know what. There is not any decision taken still.
Yeah. So regarding the decision making, I said also, give me a couple of days just to look into the code in more detail, to the parts that are touched by this feature, so I have a better idea, and I will respond on the proposal, what I think is feasible and what not, and then we can kind of put it for the decision I'm not sure. Is that something that we want to get voted on? No, not really. Or I mean voted on by the stakeholders within the voting cycle, or do we just let it kind of a thumb up in GitHub?
It's a good question. I mean, I think we need to have something firm. Once we have something firm, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, or do we just do this kind of stuff if there is kind of there are mixed opinions and there's no clear picture that we put it on a vote? So if everyone just that votes on the proposal just gives a thumbs up, I would really be surprised that it's voted down in the end during the voting. But maybe we do it if it's that's. I haven't thought about this in more detail when we put a proposal for a vote in by all stakeholders, or when we do it just in GitHub.
I think we make a best efforts basis to garner as much feedback as possible and just get feedback on GitHub. And like SQ is saying on YouTube, if there is contention, then we can always go to the DAO. But if there's a clear if there's a clear opinion, then I think I would say that's sufficient.
Yeah. It might not be worth,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Cool. So we'll gather more information this week, and then maybe next week we can look at making a more firm proposal and tech spec.
Yeah, that would be great.
That sounds good. Okay.
And after we have the tech spec, or in parallel, let's say, we can work then on the UI prototype. Just it can be super rough, but just to have this whole, it can be kind of a mock-up style, but just to have this process thought through also from the user perspective, that it also works.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for writing down this detailed proposal for our problem.
Well, of course. I mean, thank you for your feedback. Seems like you got caught up pretty quickly after being gone for so long. Appreciate your feedback, and everybody else who's on the call and in the chat. Appreciate your time and your input.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, like we said, we'll gather more information and stuff this week, and then next week we'll proceed to doing a tech spec and firming up some of the details for implementation over the next few weeks.
Perfect.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.